Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever floats your boat. Here, all things NLDS podcast. How you doing? My name's Manny. That's Cayden. We're back. A lot of things have happened in the past
Things have happened.
2.5 weeks.
Great things have happened
Indeed.
since we've last done our show. I'm very happy with the things that have happened. The Phillies have defeated the Braves 3-1 in the NLDS, and now they're on their way to go play the Diamondbacks tonight.
Tonight, indeed. Yeah, about that. We'll just go right into it. Why waste time? People don't like their time to be wasted.
Nope.
They don't.
They really don't.
They don't.
So
let's
talk.
Phillies, Braves, as you said, the Phillies took the series 3-1. A little bit of deja vu from last year.
Yep.
They won the game 3-1 as well. That last game, game 4 in Philly, which was bizarre. I want to go over that game specifically a little bit.
Really
before
crazy game.
We go over the entire series, and then we're going to talk a little bit about the Bravos. But yeah, I mean, really weird. Like, especially that 7th inning, Craig Kimbrell comes in, who's been pretty
stressful.
good. He's been good in the playoffs, but I feel like he's gotten into trouble like a little bit. But he's gotten his way out of it.
I mean, yeah, and that's it. You just gotta have trust in Rob Thompson, and he's just done such a great job.
He's
so
pushed
far.
all the right buttons.
I know it's just crazy. It always seems it's a bend don't break strategy. We've had our fair share of runners on base, especially in the later innings. We've actually been really good in like the first 4 or 5, but we've always seemed to get out of it without any major damage. I don't think we've had a single inning where more than 2 runs have been scored, and that only happened twice.
So yeah, I mean, right here, bases loaded, pass ball. Like, I was gonna talk about this. I don't know what happened there. I guess the only thing that I could think of that was going through his head was, don't make the last out at home down 2.
Yeah. Also, I mean, he had a different angle than what all of us could see.
I mean,
he might not have been able to track that ball, but also if we go back like 10 seconds, you can see when he throws the pass ball, if JT would have seen how far the runner
a little bit more,
a little bit
forward. Right here. No, yeah, just leave it there.
Like, look how far the runner on first is away from first. JT could have thrown him out. Well, he wasn't taking a lead. He thought he was going to second. Look, by the time he's just turning around, like,
yeah, but he wasn't thinking that off the. Your first reaction.
Oh yeah.
Isn't where's the guy at first?
But could you imagine if that's how?
I mean, if that's how the inning ended, then we'd be talking about it maybe a lot more, because obviously Acuna gets out here, and a lot of people are talking about how he basically disappeared in this series. He went like he went 0 for 4 the last game.
Yeah.
And it was just not great, that top 2. Austin Riley did show up. Matt Olson did not. But I mean, I don't know. Literally, you're taught in every level of baseball when you have a lead at third. Pretty much as a base runner, when the ball gets past him in the opposite direction, especially in a big backstop, you anticipate it on the secondary, and then you see it gets past him to the other way, and you go.
Yeah.
And you go. You just go. You don't think about it. And if he would have done that, he would have been safe easily. Like, Real Muto thought he had no play. That's why he was jogging.
And that changes the whole dynamic of the inning. But
I mean, not even
the whole dynamic.
Okay, let's say Acuna still flies out, right?
Yeah.
Then
their 9th inning approach.
You're still down 1. Like, you just need a base runner, a team that has stolen a lot of bases this year, the Braves.
You're just playing small ball at that point.
Yeah, and I mean, it stinks. They just looked nervous. To me, they looked nervous playing in Philly, especially in this last game. I mean, it was kind of ugly, like that. And their guys weren't hitting. They like had no spark offensively. I thought game 2 was going to be the spark for their entire. I had this team winning the World Series. A bad pick. But at the moment, it made all the sense in the world. It was a historic offense team compared to the 1927 Yankees, and they just didn't show up at all. Like, statistically, they had the best WRC plus since the 1927 Yankees. They scored 1 run in game 4. I think 2 runs in game 3. Yes, 2 runs in game 3. They scored 5 in game 2, which they won, and they got shut out in game 1.
I mean,
that is not a historic offense.
I mean, that's just not a good run scoring for like your average team if you're putting them up against
especially the Braves. And it was shocking. It was absolutely shocking.
The Braves are just like so many levels ahead of even the Phillies, but they just forgot how to play baseball. And part of it was an amazing series from the Phillies. It's a team that I think just comes alive, come playoff time. We see so many players it just hits them and they start going off. Happened last year, it's happening this year. But still, that shouldn't really be too much of a problem for the Braves if they didn't just completely shut down offensively.
100%. I honestly think their pitching staff did well, except
Yeah.
for Game 3
I
where they
mean,
got shelled. But other than that, they definitely held their ground against an offense that seems to get hot
well,
every October for the past 2 years. Which obviously isn't the biggest sample size, but you know what I mean. Like they
and
look
even
unstoppable. For
even
the
when they're
last 2
not
years.
hot, they're still a really good offense. So
100%.
I mean, Strider pitched 2 amazing games and they lost both of them. That's what I was worried about. Honestly,
Yeah.
I knew Strider was starting two games, and honestly, if we won any of those, it felt like
You had the series.
they were just playing. They were just playing with house money. If they could, like on those 2 starts, if they could win one, phenomenal. But if you don't, it's kind of almost expected when it's that good of a pitcher and that good of an offense.
100%.
But they just didn't hit the baseball, and the Phillies, they know how to take advantage, and they did, and they just did exactly what they needed to do.
Matt Olson, 4 for 16, no extra base hits. Ozzy Albies, 4 for 15. He didn't do that bad, a couple walks. And then again, they were all singles, though. Ronald Acuna, 2 for 14. 2 for 14. He had a double and a single. Orlando Arcia disappeared, got laughed at by the entire media. Michael Harris made a great catch in Game 2, but went 0 for 13. Marcelo Zuna, who was really good for them this year, to just 2 singles. I mean, they had 3 home runs the entire series, and 2 of them were from Austin Riley, who did really well. And out of all their household names, he was the only guy that showed up. Vaughn Grissom made the last out. They didn't. I mean, I don't think I would have thrown him out there either. Some people maybe were thinking of putting him out there. Arcia was, especially like Arcia was getting literally torn apart by the fans in Philly.
Yep. I mean,
Grissom maybe could have provided a spark. He's a young guy who plays a fearless brand of baseball. I just wouldn't have seen it happening. And I understand why Snicker didn't do it. A lot of Braves fans were also complaining that Game 1, their lineup was completely different than it was the entire regular season, and they got shut out. People blame it on that. I don't know. I mean, any final thoughts on this series before we get into the Braves and why I think they have gotten bounced in the first round the last 2 years?
I mean, I think it's just because they played the Phillies. They're just no team can be used to that stadium. And when you combine that with an already good team that just seems to be better when October rolls around, it's gonna make it challenging even when you're like that. And then the Braves just refuse to play, and the Phillies are gonna win that series every time when that happens.
All right, I'm gonna maybe not rant, but this is my mini tangent on the Braves. Going into this playoffs, I compared this team to the 2016 Cubs, 2018 Red Sox, 2017 Astros. They're all teams that dominated the entire regular season, had no bumps really during the regular season. They were just dominant the whole way, got into the playoffs, won a World Series. I thought they were that type of team. They were statistically, and they looked like it the entire playoffs. And the reason that I feel like they weren't, and that the main difference with this team and those other teams were, you go up and down that Red Sox clubhouse in 2018, you got dudes. And I'm not talking about like players. I'm talking about mature clubhouse guys. The Cubs are probably a better example. Dexter Fowler, great in a clubhouse. David Ross, clutch, great in a clubhouse. I'm not going to make this about managers because really I think leaders are player-led. You go into the Houston, you got Carlos Correa, Jose Altuve, Alex Bregman. The Red Sox had J.D. Martinez and Mookie Betts, who I know were both in this Dodger clubhouse too. But it was just a different dynamic where you know that all those teams had great leaders and like they ran a clubhouse well. Who's the leader on this Braves team? It used to be Freddie Freeman. They won a World Series, and then it was Dansby Swanson last year. Now, who is it? Because Ronald Acuna is definitely not your leader. He shows up, he takes his flowers when he got to 40, 70, and then doesn't talk to the media after you lose. After they lose, if you're a good leader at any level, you take your flowers and you take your stones when it's time to take them. I don't know who's the ringleader in that clubhouse. I saw no sense of urgency. I didn't. It just felt like a team, like a bunch of young guys that were really talented, and then they went up against, I think, is the best clubhouse in the major leagues in the Phillies.
Definitely.
They're just a tight group of guys, and you see it in the way that they play. They have an identity. I don't know. I don't know what happened to the Braves. I think that's my take, and they have to look internally. Maybe get a guy who can. I don't know. In the offseason, I don't really know what they could do about that, but it definitely hurts. And that was my concern going into the season with them.
I mean, yeah, it sounded like it looked like all the players were just trying to be the superhero, and the Phillies were just focused on winning the baseball game. And that brave strategy of everyone just doing their own thing and trying to mash home runs can work in the regular season, but when playoffs come around and it's more small ball focused and scraping for every run you can, that just doesn't work out.
Yes, and Xander Bogaerts was on that team too. David Price, sorry, because I only mentioned a couple Red Sox guys, and I don't know if those are great examples. But yeah, I mean, I guess we'll move on. I think the Braves will be fine. Do they have a regular? I think it's still a great run. It's just really disappointing, especially this year. Last year, maybe not that much. Everyone was just like the Phillies were hot. This year, it really stinks if you're a Braves fan.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's any reason for concern from a Braves fan standpoint. They're going to be good for the next, they're going to be good for the next like 8 to 10 years. They have
they have everyone locked up.
They have all these guys on like their signature 10-year, $100 million contract that they give them when they're 20, and then they play through all of their brightest years with the team. And I mean, I see them keeping this division, like winning the NLE streak that they have going for another like 4 or 5 years at least. I just don't see how anyone beats them over a 162 game stretch. But they just, ever since they won the World Series, it just seems like they can't figure it out in the playoffs. And I think if this same thing happens next year, it's time to search and see where the problem is. And I think you're definitely right about it being a leadership issue, where all these guys are just playing for themselves with no identity. But moving on to the NLCS now, Phillies Diamondbacks,
still an NL East team alive.
Yep, Phillies have X-nayed everybody else. The Marlins and Braves have both been eliminated by their NL East buddies, the Phils. And and no one really thought this was going to be the matchup coming into it. But the Phillies surprisingly now have home field advantage for the first time, excluding a wild card series in these last 2 playoff runs.
Yep.
So we'll see how that plays out. And honestly, it's going to be interesting because one thing I've always said about not having home field advantage is that all you have to do is split that 1-2 stint away, and all of a sudden the home field advantage is back to you. And then you have that 3-game streak where you can really just almost finish it there. And that's what the Phillies did every time, excluding the World Series. The second the series came to them,
it was over.
They just won every game and just didn't allow it to go back. They had more home games than the Padres in the NLCS, even though they didn't have home field advantage.
Yeah.
So I feel like there is a little bit of pressure to start the series off 2-0. But at the same time, I think the Phillies 3 is way better than the Diamondbacks 3. And, that helps us quite a bit. But there is certainly a little bit of, freshness coming with the first time having this home field advantage travel schedule for them.
Yeah. I think this Diamondbacks team is super interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Considering that they were big underdogs, especially against the Dodgers, big underdogs against against the Brewers. I'm sorry. A very interesting thing I want to say about this team is that they are not afraid of anyone, similar to the Phillies last year. They went into the Milwaukee. They were down in both games against two aces and Corbin Burns and Brandon Woodruff. They won both games, swept them, went into LA, won both games very, very handedly, blew them out, just literally raided their refrigerator, took their couch, like did everything. Went into Arizona, also took care of them right away. I mean, they're just hot right now. And not only that, they play a fearless brand of baseball, and their team that definitely has a leader, Evan Longoria. The offense rallies behind Tommy Pham. Who would have thought Tommy Pham would be the 3-hitter on an NLCS team right now? Because that's definitely not the Mets. Sorry, Mets are catching strays, even though this is an NL East show. But yeah, I think it's very interesting. I don't think they're gonna go into Philly the way the Braves did. I have them splitting in Philly. I don't think they win the series though, but I think they're gonna like make it interesting. They're gonna score. They're gonna hit their way. I think they win game one, and then they lose game two, and pretty much maybe I think they lose in six.
I
They
mean,
lose game six in Philly.
I just don't know about the whole scared thing you were just talking about, because from what I've read, they've been taking BP with the speakers on full blast.
Yeah,
to try
exactly.
to-
They're
to try to
ready.
get used. They're not ready. They're nervous. That doesn't compare to what Citizens Bank is going to be like. Dude,
I don't know.
the players do their research. I mean, the fans do their research. I saw Spencer Strider warming up in the bullpen. They were just talking about his mom the whole time.
Yeah, that's crazy.
While he
in
was
Philly,
warming
they
up.
don't care.
They know what they're talking about, and their bullpen is aware. Their bullpen's scared. I know that for a fact. On an interview with one of the bullpen guys, he said they plan to spend as much time as they can during the Phillies home games inside the little indoor cove, so they can't be verbally harassed by the.
I mean, they want to lock in, yo. I think
vicious-
they're locked.
I know,
think
but
they're
why
locked.
would you say that to the public? You're just firing
I
them up even
guess.
more.
Yeah, for sure. I
Like-
mean, no, I just think Zach Gallen is a dog. I think he's gonna shove tonight. I really do. Former Marlin. I still kind of root for him, even though he kind of hates us. And like him and Jazz have beef. But I think he's gonna shove tonight. Still think the Phillies win. How many games do you have them winning in? 4?
6.
6.
5.
So we literally agree. Oh, 5?
5,
Okay.
5, 6. I wouldn't be surprised if we take it in 5.
Yeah, because you think that you guys take both in Philly and then lose one in Arizona, win two and lose one in Arizona.
I would be. You see, that's the thing. I think regardless of if we end up playing 4 home games, we're gonna go 3-1 in our home games. So as long as we take one away in Arizona, I think we'll be okay.
Okay. All right.
But
Who's your MVP?
Bryce Harper.
Harper again.
I didn't even have to think about it.
Harper again.
He just plays, man. He's
I'm
just there
picking Aaron
in the
Nola.
playoffs.
I'm
Okay.
picking Aaron Nola because I think he's gonna win game 2 and he's gonna win game 6.
That's
I think he's
reasonable.
gonna shove in both.
If there is a game 6.
Well, I think there is. So that's part of my prediction. It's a little bizarre. If it goes less than 6, it's not going to be Aaron Nola.
Yeah.
Obviously, it'll probably be Harper or Castellanos, who's on a tear. Huh?
Wheeler, because Wheeler will pitch 5.
Yeah, Wheeler will pitch 5, so it might be Wheeler. But I mean, they hesitate to give it to starters unless they absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's going to be Harper. And if I had to take a second guess, I'd say Castellanos.
Yeah, but Nola in Philly, like what he's. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. When he pitches in Philly, like that crowd just rallies behind him, especially after the regular season he had, which wasn't great.
I mean, they'll rally behind anyone in the postseason. We've seen
It
it.
just looks different though. Aaron Nola is
yeah,
dog. He's a
he-
dude's dude.
He feeds off the crowd. There's no question about it. And I don't know. I think we're gonna see what the Diamondbacks are made of when it comes to handling pressure tonight. You know, there's a young team.
I think they showed it. Going into LA is not easy.
Yeah, but they're
I think-
going
look,
into LA.
We're going a little overboard with this Philly mojo and
I mean,
look, there's a home field advantage.
Has it not? Like, you look at their home record in the playoffs. What is it now? We haven't.
Yeah,
lost.
but we're acting like this, like it's easy to play in LA, or it's easy to play in I don't know in Houston. Oh my gosh, in Houston, the Twins won a game in Houston.
Oh.
Houston and Philly are very comparable atmospheres. They're comparable.
No,
they're comparable.
no, they're not comparable.
I think
because no, because you can get used. You can get used to crowd noise. You can't get used to the personal insults.
No, but
that the
everyone does it
Phillies fans-
everywhere.
No,
Yankee
not as much
fans
as the
do
Phillies
it.
fans do. I saw a video of Strider coming out, and they were chanting the name of the hotel that his family was staying at while he came
That's
off
nuts.
the field. It's just that's just different. That just gets in your head at a different level. That infiltrates your brain.
Maybe, I mean, I don't know. Houston's crazy, dude. They're kind of nuts too.
I don't know. I just don't think it compares
Especially in
to
this
Philly.
Texas series.
And
We won't talk the American League, but
the Phillies evident like they feed off the crowd more than any other team too. I mean, we're 9-2 at home in the playoffs these last 2 years, and the 2 losses again were against the Astros in the World Series. Possibly I mean, they were by far the best team last year.
Yeah. All right, so we got our MVPs. We have our predictions. I think Corbin Carroll is gonna have a great series. I'm not gonna make you compliment anyone on Arizona's side.
I mean, no, I think he's a good player, and I was just looking at their payroll before
it's pretty
this
low.
started.
They're all young.
Corbin Carroll's at 1.6 million.
Well, that's this year, but his extension is gonna kick in.
Oh yeah, no, his
They
extension will
extended
kick in. But they have quite a few players under $1 million a year right now that are all-stars.
Yeah,
They've
done a great job.
Just one that's an all-star, but these other guys that aren't have unbelievable stats.
We were saying how we want
paid.
Philly to play Arizona.
Were we?
We were in the wild card.
In the wild card round.
Yeah, and now they look a little different than we expected them to.
Mm-hmm. I mean, and looking at a potential World Series matchup, we see the Astros back in it. So
yeah, quick, so we don't spend too much time on the American League. I'll rant about the Marlins and we'll call it a show. What World Series are you rooting for?
I want to play the Astros again.
Really?
Yeah, I think that would be fun. I think they're a worse team than last year, but also for the reason of we would have home field advantage against the Astros.
Mm-hmm.
We would not against the Rangers.
Yeah,
all three teams.
I want to see the Rangers, and this is my reasoning behind it. I know the Rangers and the Phillies bullpen I know they've been good in the postseason, both of them. I don't think that's gonna last. So let's say they both hit their way into the World Series. Wouldn't it be awesome to see like 2 starting pitchers go at it in Philly and Texas? Both bullpens just like hit the fan. We see a bunch of lead changes late in games. That's my.
I don't know where you're getting this prediction.
That's my fan. That's not a prediction. It's my fan fiction. This is what I want to see.
Gonna like explode out of.
This is what I want to see. This is my fan fiction.
I wouldn't mind it.
I want to see lead changes late in World Series games. I think it makes for awesome content and drama.
I think my dad might have a heart attack, but I think it would be.
It would be awesome. It would be awesome. Just seeing Philly, like let's say the Phillies are up 4-2 going into like the top of the 9th, and then the Rangers scored 3. Everybody's quiet, and then like Nick Castellanos comes up with a runner on and just goes yard, and then that would be awesome.
I'm gonna like think about this before I go to sleep
tonight. That would be awesome in the World Series. Who wouldn't want to see that? Anyways, either way, whatever happens. I as a Cuban, I root for the Rangers and the Astros. They have a lot of Cuban ball players, and it's fun to see. Hopefully, Lude does his thing for the D-backs. But yeah,
glad we could hear about your fantasies, Manny. That was
awesome.
That was fun.
That was incredible. All right, moving on. The Marlins part ways with Cayden and Manny. She opted out of her contract. She said, quote unquote, this is not the direct quote, but she basically said that her and ownership were not aligned. And as a Marlins fan, I'm disappointed, as everyone else is, that roots for this pathetic franchise. I'm sorry it came out. But yeah, it's pretty pathetic how they're in Miami and they act like a small market team. The owner acts like he lives like in the Overlook buildings, like he acts like he lives in like a two bedroom apartment, and he's living paycheck to paycheck. I don't know. They don't want to spend money. They didn't want to spend money on Castellanos, and look, he's hit 4 home runs in 2 playoff games for your rival team. They don't want to. The GM, you finally get a GM that makes good moves. Someone that makes good decisions that Jeter brought in, that Jeter kind of handed the keys to, even though he left for the same reason. A winning culture is finally being implemented into Miami, and you can't give her some extra bucks for her contract, and you can't give her some money to spend for this team so this team could actually win a World Series. It's the first time the Marlins were watchable since, I don't even know, 2016.
2020, but if you
Not
want to
even
count that.
2020. They were a bunch of, yeah, sure, they were cool, but there were no fans in the stands. Like,
Yeah.
they didn't even profit from that. I don't know. It just sucks. Like, really bad. I don't know. I don't even know what to think. I don't even. Do I root for this team? They're probably gonna stink. Like, her trade deadline was exceptional, and I don't know. They're not gonna spend money this year. They're gonna run it back without Sandy, with the same roster, and they're gonna win 75 games, and nobody's
Probably.
gonna care.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I feel like this was the Marlins' chance to finally make a resurgence. They've
100%.
they've been just down, and I've always just thought of them like ever since I started watching baseball. It's just like the free win team, and that's kind of changed over the years. Like they've slowly gotten better, and all that led up to this year, and that was going to lead up to next year, and now with this
You have a young core.
drop off.
When you get a young core, just like the
unfortunate.
Phillies, what did they do? How did they get here? All right, they had young starting pitching. They signed Harper, trade for Romuto, build an offensive identity. They had a good farm system. They knew they weren't gonna win right away, but Bohms comes up, Stock comes up. They kind of did in reverse order where they paid for the guys before their young guys came up.
Well, and then, but then 2 years ago with the Schwarber and Castellanos.
Yeah,
too.
and then they paid for guys. They built their identity. They developed pitching. They developed a lot of.
Can't forget about Wheeler. I mean, the trade for him.
Yeah,
was
the trade
incredible.
It was a great trade. I mean, the Braves develop, then they pay. They look for guys.
The Braves is just otherworldly with how they did it.
Yeah, but like what I'm saying is, you build every great team. The Astros build a core around their young guys, franchise guys. The Dodgers did it. I mean, I'm comparing them to the elites, but like the Marlins, I think, have a core with this pitching that if they spend money, they could be up there with anyone in the league. Like, they literally had one of the lowest payrolls in baseball. They didn't spend any money. They ran it with a team full of young guys. They just brought in Luis Arias. Then obviously Jake Berger, Josh Bell at the trade deadline, and they made the playoffs. Honestly, with that pitching, I think you could do a bunch of things. It's weird as a Marlins fan because it used to be the opposite. They used to just throw money at guys because it was Miami and Loria was a big baseball dude. You should just throw money at guys and not develop any pitching at all. And now it's like the opposite. Now they have all the pitching. They don't want to throw money at guys. Like, if you put this pitching staff on the 2017 offense, they'd probably win the World Series. And I'm not exaggerating. Like, literally, if you look at the 2017 roster for the Marlins and the 2019 roster for the Phillies, like, just offense, it's eerily, it's like similar and like weird at how much they compare. Where like it's a team that their pitching staffs just didn't keep up with that offense, or like the 2016 Marlins.